Hey friends, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Christine, and today we're going to be doing a marinade for some pork jerky. My other video was ground turkey jerky, say that 10 times, but we're going to be putting it together today for some pork. And reason we're doing it, we bought a big slab of meat about a week and a half ago, cut some up into pork chops. They were delicious. I have some marinating tonight, some smaller pieces of pork. And I thought while I had the rest of it out, I would show you what I do to make some marinade to dehydrate it into some pork jerky. You always hear beef jerky, but not pork. So I just thought I'd bring you along with while I put the marinade together, and then we will let that soak overnight and we will dehydrate it tomorrow. So come on with. Okay friends, let's get this cut up into about a 1 pound piece. And I'm gonna put it on some foil and I'm gonna freeze it for about a half hour. And then we'll move on to the next step, which will be putting all these ingredients in the bowl, mixing it up just like I did with the turkey jerky, and getting that marinating overnight. So the piece I originally bought was 5 pounds. I'm thinking this is about 2 pounds left. I don't have a scale here, so I'm gonna do it about in half. And the reason why you want to freeze it is because then you'll really be able to get those super thin slices. And before I freeze it, I'm thinking I want to cut off some of this fat, but maybe it'll come off easier when it's frozen. So let's do that. All right, piece is cut up. I'm thinking it's about a pound because that's what my ingredients call for, is about a pound of meat. So I'm going to set this on here and get it in the freezer. Okay friends, we are going to put together the marinade while the meat is still freezing. So I'm going to do this for 1 pound of meat. And again, this is a marinade that you can actually use for beef, chicken, the turkey, like what we did in my other video. So I'm going to start out with the wet ingredients. I've got my whisk out this time to make things a little bit easier. And I'm going to start out with the liquid aminos, which is similar to soy sauce. It's just the healthy version of it. It has all the different amino acids which your body needs, instead of like the super duper salty regular soy sauce. And yeah, you can get it with, lower sodium, the soy sauce, but this is such a great replacement, and it's from the Bragg company, which also makes a great apple cider vinegar. So we're going to put in 1/4 cup of soy sauce, which is my liquid aminos. I'm just going to squeeze it. Okay. There's that. And then we're going to get, I don't know if you've ever heard of like rice wine vinegar, but we're going to be using some red wine vinegar. That's going to be kind of a fun twist on this. Speaking of twist, my brand new bottle. And not too much of this. We're just going to put in 2 tablespoons. And again, this recipe is for 1 pound. So 1 and 2. There's that. And like I said, I like to put in the liquid ingredients first and give it a stir. There's that. I'm going to put that there. And then we're going to do some sweetness to it. I'm going to do some raw honey, and that's going to be 2 tablespoons as well. We'll squeeze that out. And that's, for the little bit of sweetness. Sorry, this is my bad hand, so I'm going to squeeze that out. Maybe I got to open the front top here. Uh-oh. Hey Google, turn off timer. That was my timer for the meat. So it should be pretty frozen. And this is real life, guys. This is a real kitchen, real working kitchen. Okay, there's 1-ish. Let me grab a spatula quick to scoop all that out. All that yummy raw honey. And I'll probably have to do the same thing with this. It's getting down there. All right. Here it comes. And this is organic. Bought it, actually I was pretty surprised. I did buy it over at Walmart, the organic version. Scoop that out. Okay. Lid set to the side. So that's the sweetness. And then we're gonna put in some Worcestershire, just for a little smoky. And I'm gonna do just a teaspoon of that, because you don't want it too much tasting like this Worcestershire. That's the other liquid. And then let's save that for a minute. And I'm gonna be putting in mesquite this time. Last time I put in some hickory, and this just gives your beef jerky, whoops, not beef jerky, your pork jerky, that smoky flavor. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's really great to cook with too as well. And this is gonna be, let's see, how many teaspoons? All right, and this is gonna be 2 teaspoons. And again, this is for 1 pound of meat. So that's 2 teaspoons of that. And then for fun, my daughter introduced us to this, and we kind of have fallen in love with it. It's the chili garlic sauce. I bought the small one because I wasn't sure how much I'd put it on stuff, but I'm really having fun with it. I'm putting it in, I'm finding myself putting it and mixing it with stuff. And all right, I'm gonna do 1 teaspoon of this, and this is kind of replacing my garlic in here. It is chili garlic sauce, so it's more of a medium. And I'm just gonna dollop that in there. So that's kind of fun. And then we're down to the dry ingredients now. So I'm just gonna kind of swirl this together to kind of get that honey melted in there. And yep, and it's got like those few like red pepper flakes in there from that chili garlic. There we go, it's pretty much melted together. I'm gonna leave that in there. All right, so now we're on to the dry ingredients. I thought this one would be fun. This is a salt-free, which obviously this isn't salt-free, but it is a Zesty blend from my Kroger store. And it has pepper, parsley, celery, marjoram, oregano, thyme, cayenne, coriander, cumin, mustard, rosemary, orange peel, etc. And it's one of my favorite things to put on my salads, put it on meat, you can put it on anything. So I thought it would be really fun to add to this. And it's just beautiful, actually. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got just like so much going on with it. And like I said, it's salt-free. So I'm gonna put in a pretty decent amount. I'm gonna put in a tablespoon of this. So we're making this jerky marinade more of a medium. I'm gonna rinse that off in there. So 1 tablespoon of that. It's kind of sticking to that tablespoon. And then I can't make a meal, marinade, anything of the sort without my Redmond's real salt. This is made in the USA. It's literally mined right out of Utah, and they mine it out of the cave and then they put it in the jar, basically. So if you've never heard of it, look it up. It's Redmond's real salt. Favorite of so many people. And I'm not gonna do too much salt, but you do want that kind of curing action. I'm just kind of putting some in my hand and giving it a shake because there is salt in everything else. Okay, my Redmond's real salt. And if you know me, if you've been watching my channel, ginger and turmeric are next. Ginger it just has so many medicinal purposes. So I'm always adding it to whatever I can. Like I said, unless you really specifically don't like the flavor of ginger, you're really not gonna taste it in here. But it just has that extra medicinal purpose for you. So I'm doing a 1/2 teaspoon of each. And this is for 1 pound. So 1/2 of the ginger and 1/2 of the turmeric. Okay. Okay, and then also, since I have the 1/2 out, I'm gonna do my ground black pepper. And shake that in there. Woo, I can really smell it. And then I thought for fun too, I've got some white sesame seeds. I usually use something like this for like the bottom of a bread, but I thought this would be fun to put in there and kind of really give it that different look and flavor. So I'm gonna do half a teaspoon-ish. There. Okay. All right, those ingredients are all in, and I'll leave it in the bottom portion of the instructions of what all of the portion sizes that I used for the 1 pound. And let me get this thing out of here and really whisk it. So just whisking it together, and then you heard my timer go off, so my meat should be frozen. And we'll get that sliced up, and you'll just see how easy that it slices up. I've got my glove ready to dip into the marinade. All right, friends. I'll be right back. Okay, the meat is partially frozen. I just had it on some foil. So I'm gonna stick this glove on, and then I'll show you how it slices up so nice and thin. It's kind of got some firmness to it. Let's give it a go. And the goal is to cut it as thin as you can for the marinade. I just sharpened this knife, or I should say my husband did, so super thin. And see how it kind of stays together then? All right. And then what I'll do is I'm going to get this cut up, and then I'll trim off the ends. See how nice that is? And then I'll show you the trick tomorrow once we get that in the dehydrator. There wasn't too many tricks to do with the ground turkey that my other video I had, but this one, there's a couple little tricks to the trade. And you know, I'm not really caring how even or anything that I'm slicing them, but they are like super, super thin. So what I'll do is I'll get this cut up and I'll be right back. Okay, this is what it yielded. Quite a few pieces, and this isn't like cooking. So you know how you want to leave that fat on to, you know, for the flavor? Well, you don't on this, especially with pork. It's a little bit fattier, so I worked really hard to get as much fat off as I could because you want it to be lean. And like I said, we're going to marinate this overnight, and we'll check back in the morning. So I'm just going to pretty much lay these pieces in here and get them in the marinade, soaking. I kind of like to do it this way, piece by piece, so you really know that you're kind of soaking it all in. And then it's going to be such a great flavor to it. Smoky flavors, a little bit of sweet with that honey in there. The sesame seeds are pretty fun as well. I'm hoping to not get this on my blouse. And what we'll do tomorrow is I'll show you the true way of getting that meat ready for the dehydrator. Until then, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, friends, let's start. I've got a few tricks of the trade here. So the meat has been marinating overnight in the marinade that we saw earlier. And so what I take are the gallon size bags. And I actually just take a pair of scissors and I just cut up the side so that it's one big long thing with still the fold. I don't cut it all the way through. And then this is where we're going to lay the pieces of meat underneath, and then we're going to pound them down. Because what you want to do, you want to break up any of the tendons that are in the pieces of meat. So let me show you. Oh my gosh, this smells so good. So I'm just laying these out as flat as I can. And I got 2 bags out just in case this first one got too messy. And you're laying them out flat, because breaking up those tendons really flattens that piece of jerky out. And you'll see what I mean once I have them on the sheet here for the dehydrator. All right, about 4 pieces I think will do. Lay them flat as you can. Okay, and then I'm going to close this back up. And it just helps with the mess too. So you can use whatever you have. I don't happen to have a meat tenderizer here, but I'm not sure if this is going to do the trick. So I actually grabbed my husband's hammer and I got permission. So he said I could use it. And yeah, this is going to work better. And so you'll see all those little pieces of fat, and you really want to just pound them as flat as you can. And you kind of see it splattering. That's why you want the bag on top. So we're going to pound all these out. And that's kind of the other trick of the trade. And then that way the cook time isn't quite as long. You can kind of get them the same width by pounding it down. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we're going to use the same tongs. I have my cookie sheet underneath just to avoid mess. And then actually, I think I'm going to spatula them onto here. And it's kind of like a puzzle, so you want to try to fit as many pieces as you can, but you still want some space in between. That one there, flatten it out. And these are going to be so good. And this one's really thin. And then, you know, after they're done dehydrating, you can break them up into smaller pieces. Okay. Lay this one flat. I'm going to use this, tongs. Maybe the tongs will be easier, I'm not sure. All right, so there's 4-ish pieces on there. I might be able to fit a couple more on here. So I'm going to maneuver these around a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so as you can see, this gets really messy, and I probably should have wore a different apron, but this is the one that I chose for the day. Put this to the side, and then you just kind of start over. You get your pieces of meat out and put it in between. So I got the other bag out, like I said, just in case this one gets a little bit too hairy, for lack of better. And this is 1 pound of pork, not ground pork, but this was pork loin roast, and it's one of the better deals you can get these days on meat. So like I said earlier, that we made some pork chops, and then I also made like a smaller marinade with some lemon turmeric dressing and some liquid aminos and a few other fun things. And we had that for dinner last night. It was really delicious. All right, these are a little bit smaller pieces, so I'm going to fit a few more on here. And let's pound them out. Okay. And I'll speed this up for you. I might pound this one a little bit more. I do use the silicone. There we go. There we go. I do use the silicone on my dehydrator just because of messes like this. And that way the juice doesn't all fall through, etc. Okay. Well, let's get some more pieces going. It's a little bit awkward here, but I'm just going to do it. Okay, and yeah, this marinade is not super spicy or anything. It just has a little bit, you know, I would call it medium. So let's get all these fun little pieces out. Yeah, let me know if you tried the turkey jerky. The turkey video I'll have come up at the end. And the turkey jerky is from ground turkey. Just like you could ground this up and the pork up and then do ground pork jerky as well. But since it was already in roast form, and if you look back at the video, I froze it for a little bit, for probably half hour or so, just to get it firm enough to cut really thin. And then with pounding it out like this, it makes it even thinner. This one's pretty thick here, so I might have to do some extra pounding on that one. All right, and I'll speed this up. So you don't always have to use a dehydrator as well. You can put it in the oven too. So you have to look up what degree. Obviously you wouldn't use these type of trays, but you would use like some type of cookie sheet tray. And so if you don't have a dehydrator, you can look up a recipe and how hot to put this, because you kind of want it low and slow. And on these, by the end, we will be putting it up to, I want to say 160, because it is raw meat that you are cooking in the dehydrator. And then, yeah, you have to look up what temperature. You can do it in the oven. Okay, yep, and this should be just about perfect. I got 3 trays out for 1 pound of meat. And that one looks perfect. Perfect little slot for it right here. It's kind of satisfying fitting all the pieces on there. All right, and we're down to the last few. And then off to my dehydration station. So now you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the mess. It's almost all contained in the bag here. I probably could have changed to my other one, but that'll be saved for another time. And yeah, then you just kind of toss that. If you wanted to marinate a little something else in the marinade, you probably could, if you wanted to make more of the same thing, but it really did soak up quite a bit of it. All right, let's get over to the dehydration station. Okay friends, we're at my dehydration station out in the back because it's definitely warm out today. So rule of thumb, we are going to set it at 150 and we're going to go for 4 hours and come back and check it. And just because these are thinner pieces, we're just going to check it at the 4-hour mark and see what they're looking like. So see you then. Hey friends, I ended up bringing it inside, but it did finish after the 4 hours. I had to run and do a couple errands, so it is all ready to go. My husband and I munched on a piece here. And the rule of thumb with when you do meat, like, the chunk meat like this, instead of ground, that if it bends and cracks, that it's good to go, like not like super break apart. So it has that beef jerky, texture, but this is pork, don't forget. And yeah, it turned out great. My husband's like, I want to try another piece. So we're good to go. And I'm going to get it all packaged up and I'll probably shrink wrap it. So we're going to get that taken care of. Okay friends, we made it through it. So we have our pork jerky that was marinated overnight, and I'll leave the recipe below. And then we put it at 4 hours at 150 degrees. So you can do this in the oven too if you don't have a dehydrator, but I happen to have my dehydration station out here where we're at. So I sealed them up 2 different ways. This is for consumption now. I kind of put the longer, skinnier pieces in here, and then I sealed it up with my vacuum sealer, if you didn't quite see that. And then the other way was in vacuum seal bags. And then I did put an oxygen absorber, and then we'll probably eat these in a month or 2 on the way home from here. So if you like videos like this, I have a few more dehydration ones, a few canning and preparedness, etc. So thanks for coming with, and I'll see you next time on Christine's Routines. Take care and God bless. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Not channel, my kitchen, not channel. Oh my gosh. And do the dehydrating. Golly gosh. For coming with, we doodly doo.